welcome to Captive Audience. This is Don Anderson, your host, and his hostess, Leslie Schneider. Say good evening, Leslie.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, glad to see you all here, or at least see your chat line here, and I'm glad you're all here. As always, feel free to jump in. My throat's a little crazy. My cold came back to bite me, so I'm a little bit scratchy. But hey, what can you say, right? I went to the doctor, and it wasn't anything like pneumonia or anything. So get rest and drink water.
Yeah,
And make sure
write it
it's
out.
water.
Write it
Don't be drinking
out.
other things. All right. So that
Don't be
said,
a
let me
party
just,
pooper, Don.
yes, I know it's a bummer, but somehow it just doesn't help you when you drink other stuff. Well, hey, I thought it'd be so apropos. I got thinking about the Super Bowl and the halftime show, which, to be honest, I didn't really watch. So really, all I heard was about it because I refused to uh, let myself stoop to that level. But of course, I have to have something to say about it. So let me just give you a few thoughts on that. So my thinking on this was they had to aim for the bottom of the basement, right? They chose Jerry Springer instead of Rodgers and Hammerstein. Think about all of the beautiful things they could have done to have a wonderful unifying halftime theme. At a time of national strife and national tension, the one opportunity we have to get together for the national party, and they chose that to take a giant stick and poke it in the eye of about 80% of the country. They could have celebrated the uniqueness of the greatest country on earth, the greatest country in history. They could have helped heal the national wounds, but instead they chose division, immorality, and ugliness, which is usually what they do. Instead, we got some dude twerking on stage like a cat in heat. I mean, you can't make this up. Those people went to the Super Bowl, paid for five-star meal prices, and they got cat food. Actually, worse, they got cat food after the cat processed the food. I, I got to tip my hat to Major League Baseball. All of you remember after 9/11, the World Series was going on, and instead of choosing something disgusting and immoral like National Football League did, Major League Baseball got it right. They seized the big moment and chose a unifying theme. If you remember, they had Ray Charles sing about his love for the United States of America. His rendition of America the Beautiful was one of the most amazing, drop dead gorgeous things I've ever seen. There was the draw eye in the house. And remember, that was after we watched 2,000 people basically lose their lives 3 weeks before at the attack of 9/11. And he was sensitive enough, and they were sensitive and smart enough to have this guy come in and sing about how great the United States was. We're one nation under God, indivisible. Communists don't want that. They don't want one nation under God. They don't want to share power with God. And you saw that in that so-called celebration that they gave at that halftime show. I think it's Pat Buchanan said about 30 years ago. He was talking about the culture war back in the 90s. I wasn't quite sure I believed him back then, but he has proven to be correct. So there is the opening rant from me. Leslie, what say you? Let's see. Did I lose you or Leslie? Hang on a sec. Come back, Leslie. Computer behave. There we go. Yeah, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, honestly, I think that the best thing that they could have done is just showed the Point concert. That's what I watched at the halftime. And oh boy, mine are going to get jealous.
She loves the
Like,
camera.
wait a minute, we don't get to be on screen. And I thought, yeah, I thought that the concert that Turning Point put on was patriotic. It was got family oriented. I don't know why we have to be so nasty and disgusting. I mean, this is football, right? I mean, this is a game that people all ages watch, and why I don't know why we've gotten so low in our standards and our morality when it comes to entertainment. For some reason we allow those things. Take our kids to Katy Perry concerts when they're 10. And I mean it doesn't seem, I don't know, it's not what I would do. uh, Again, I watched the other concert.
Okay, yeah, I heard that was great. I didn't watch either of them. I was with a bunch of cousins, and we got talking and having such a good time that we really didn't even pay attention to the game. I mean, the
Yeah,
game was over
yeah.
in the first quarter anyway, so we just weren't paying attention. So I heard all about the halftime show, and but it doesn't surprise you one bit. I mean, you got to think about the strategy of the left. It's like the kid who's having a temper tantrum for the last 40, 50 years most of the country's pretty much ignored them. You want to do stupid stuff on college campuses? Oh, it's over there. Oh, you want to do stupid stuff across town? Oh, we'll just ignore you, right? So
Yeah.
they've raised the heat to such a point, and they've gotten themselves into positions of power where they're going to shove it in your face. Um, Remember, it was like 5 or 6 years ago with all the flag kneeling and all of that. The one place you wanted to go to escape from all of your worries in the world, you go to a sporting event, or you go to a
Yeah.
concert, or you watch a movie, and they try to invade all of those spaces, and that's on purpose, so you can essentially have no peace. What's that stupid slogan they have about no something, no peace? Well, they mean that. And so now you can never get away from their stupidity. And the other side of this is recognize what is the thing they always go after? They'll go after decency, beauty, and morality. In effect, we would say they go after culture, they go after Christianity because they know that's the moral code for the country. So that's why it's not enough to go protest in the street. It's not enough to show your rear end, right? Now you have to go to church to have your protests. These were things that the guys in the 60s they were cutting up. You never saw that then, right? They had to go to a parade and have some 50-year-old guy tweaking in front of your 5-year-old daughter. None of that stuff was happening. Of course, back then the guy would have been like put to sleep. Wouldn't have been any police called back then. It would have been handled. That would have been the end of it, right? You know,
Put to sleep.
so 100 million people watching, and they're going to put this sort of thing on TV. In addition, it's no small accident that they put a guy on who spoke Spanish. So this is another middle figure to the country that voted to get illegal aliens out of the country. So we're going to do the whole thing in a foreign language, number one. Number two, it's all going to be about sex. And number three, it's all going to be about gay sex on top of that. And what used to be a family-friendly venue. I think people are getting fed up. I think it was really great, which the show you witnessed. I understand that 25 million people switched channels and watched that instead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was on YouTube. I mean, you had it on. You could have had, well, and here's the thing: like, how do they really track who's watching the halftime show? I mean, I think that most people are probably just getting watching.
Yeah, I think they have a technology that allows them to get a pretty good handle on that. So I do think they have a pretty good handle on that. I mean, I think I understand they even have technology to determine who turns down the volume on their TVs when the commercial comes on. I mean, I think they have means of tracking that stuff. Maybe not down to the individual person, but yeah, recall not too long ago, and it was very obvious when a TV commercial would come on, the volume would go up. Which was because they knew you were going to leave the room or do something else, and the volume go up. So we just mute our TV. We never listen to commercials anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I
the good old days.
Right. Yeah. Well,
but you mentioned the illegal, illegal immigrants, and wondering if you had seen that article. I think it was in the Epic Times, but it was about how ICE is taking over large warehouses across the country. They were slated to take over about 24 large facilities across the country to use as processing centers, deportation centers.
Yeah, I did hear that. I think that's like excellent. Whatever you have to do, it needs to happen.
Yeah, $35 billion. Some of these centers are going to house up to 10,000.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't want me to talk.
Yeah, no, you cut off for a second, but go. You're only out for like 10 seconds, so go ahead and repeat that.
So anyway, yes. So $35 billion. They're looking at 24 different facilities right now, and across the whole United States. And so there'll be smaller centers that'll process about 1,500 people up to these larger processing centers that'll have, upwards of 10,000 people. And they're planning to be fully operational in 2026. So we're, that assembly line, or I don't know, processing line, is about to be kicked off. People were, who wasn't doubting that, how are we going to get all these people out of the country? We've now to Reagan when he did that concession, like, okay, let's just forgive, ollie oxen free, like everybody, even if you're here illegally, and then you just march forward and continue to do that. Well, now all of a sudden, somebody's going to be taking it seriously. So I'm,
Yeah.
I who are talking about how rents in California are staying so high, partially because we have a lot of immigrants who are living here. So they're living in the rental, properties. Maybe we've got some.
Oh, we lost you again. Here she is. 1 second here. We'll get her back. Okay. Yeah, you were saying about California? I know. I don't know what's going on with it, but we'll roll with it. We're just saying California, yeah, maybe some commie out there pulling the plug in.
Well, I mean, I mean, I've certainly seen in my little town, we'll have a low income that's built, and people who aren't low income, they'll build it as low income, then they'll sell it actually to a regular, landlord who can turn it around and, to low income people. There's just all sorts of crazy, grift out there. So there is some optimism from some people here in California that we get the illegal immigrant issue under control, that housing prices will
go. Oh, you bring up a wonderful point. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you hear all that?
You bring a wonderful point, because I was at a meeting, and there was a lot of people, and there were some people at the meeting who brought up all these ways to help immigrants. Now, I held my tongue this time, but I'm not going to in the future. But this is one of these things that I think us conservatives have got to be better at articulating, because they're always worried about, they're always coming at the angle from emotion. Oh, let's help out the poor immigrants. Oh, let's help, all these illegal immigrants. And the reality of the matter is, while they're doing all that, helping the illegal immigrants, nobody's talking about helping the poor white, black, and brown people that are legal residents of our country. Because what's happening is the residents of the country who are poor are the ones who were first harmed and harmed the most by the people. So they're taking their jobs, number one. Number two, because there's so many of them, they're driving down their wages, so they're forcing their wages down. Number three, they're creating a competitive situation with the housing and forcing the rents to go higher. Number four, they're forcing the house payments to go up on starter homes. They're a disaster for our poor people. They're going into the public school system. Now you got multiple languages you got to deal with, which makes the educational system worse for the kids that are already in it. You've got the pressure on social services. Now the poor are waiting even longer lines to get medical service and other things that they would need, because people who are from outside countries are coming in and taking those services away from them. People with money and have means, they can escape that, or they don't rely on those services in the first place. But the more of these people we let in, the more harm we're causing to our own poor citizens. And that's going to be the point that I think we need to make to a lot of these people who have this, oh, I feel bad for them vibe going on. You need to help them in their own countries. The first thing they do is help them go back to their home countries. And the second thing is, you want to come to the United States, get in line and do it the right way, like everybody else. And then number three, make sure the resources get directed towards people in our own country who need it. And that's probably one of my biggest frustrations with this whole thing. And you find this a lot, particularly with church groups. They always want to help. And I think part of that comes from, it feels good to help people when there's no negative feedback coming your way. And you can always feel good helping. But as soon as you start doing things like saying we need to stop people from coming in so these people get services, then you got to take heat for that. And nobody wants heat, but it's really the right thing to do. And you got to look at it two ways. Number one, you got the politicians over here that are basically opening the spigot and causing problems with the way they either don't enforce the laws or don't implement the laws, number one. And then on the other end, you have the people who are good, solid Christian citizens trying to fix the problems that our politicians create. The reality is, you got to work on both of those. You got to stop the spigot, turn off the spigot by focusing on the political side of things, keeping these people from doing things that are harmful to our communities. And then you still help people on the other end. We're good at one, but we're terrible at the other. And we're never going to fix the problem unless we operate on both of those.
Well, I guess I would address, these organizations that want to help illegals. Well, first of all, you're using our money. I mean, these illegals are coming in here and we don't have the money in our pockets because we gave it to the politicians in order to.
There you go. Okay,
So,
sorry.
yeah, so we have a little hole in our pocket already because we've been funding all these programs that are supposed to be coming back to help us.
Mhm.
If they're not helping us and we need help, then who are we to go to? So, I mean, I feel like, like I'm not inviting, the neighborhood children to dinner if I barely have enough to feed my own kids. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't make sense. I can be
Yeah.
generous if I have enough to go around, but I'm not
Mhm.
going to starve my child to feed somebody else's kid. And that is exactly what's going on. I mean, did you hear about that story about that poor woman in Minnesota who was living in a homeless shelter? Her bus came. This was reported like a week or two. Bus
Mhm.
came late. She arrived at the homeless shelter after the doors were closed. They wouldn't open up the doors, and she froze to death on the street.
You are kidding me.
No,
And they wouldn't open the doors?
they wouldn't open the door. What I don't know I don't know what was going on, but here is the citizen who needed shelter. Her freaking bus was late, so she couldn't get in on time, and she died.
Yeah, I don't even have words, you know.
So I mean,
Yeah.
but that's that's one small thing. Think of all of the ways that we are suffering because somebody else thinks they've got compassion and they want to handouts to a group of people that while they may be in need, they are not the ones who we should be helping. There are plenty of other organizations that can help those folks. And like you said, maybe they should stay and try to make their countries better. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We came to a new land and forged a country that was better than the last place. Maybe they need to do the same thing. I know that that's harsh, but I'm sorry. I mean, my ex-husband was an immigrant. He waited in line. He did it the right way.
No. But the reality is, it's not really harsh. What's harsh is when you when you take somebody else's money without their permission and give it to somebody else, which is exactly what the government does. They're not asking for our permission to do this stuff. It's illegal what the government's doing, giving money to people who aren't supposed to be here. And of course, Minnesota is the epicenter, for this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's and that's one of the reasons why government shouldn't be doing this stuff in the first place. When you boil it all down, it should be private citizens doing this.
Yeah.
This is one of the
Yeah.
things that churches get so wrong all the time is they're lobbying for the government to help people. No, that's the job of the citizen. Now they can do that through churches and other organizations, like Red Cross. There's a ton of things out there, right? But that's not the job of government. And this is the biggest reason why it's not a job of government, because it's easy to take from Peter and give to Paul without Peter's permission. And that's what happens all the time. And when you do that, number one, money gets wasted. And number two, the problem never gets solved or dealt with. So
Well, and there's no transparency when the government's doing it. If
No.
you're in a church, and they're doing a fundraiser and then you give to it and then you find out the money squandered, you're looking at those people and can hold them accountable. You can
Right.
say, I'm sorry, Jack, we're not going to support that little fundraising effort that you did, again.
Yeah.
But with government, they're faceless. There's
Yeah.
no accountability. So
Yeah, classic example. I had a friend in the Bay Area a number of years ago. Classic liberal guy, but I give him credit. He's one of the guys who didn't talk the talk. He actually walked the walk. So one of the things he did, he told me the story. Wife, 2 kids, 2 girls, and they were around like 13, 14 years old. There was a homeless guy he'd see all the time in the corner. He'd ask the guy if he wanted to work, if he wanted the job. The guy would always say, no, just give me money kind of thing. So he said, okay, invite the guy to come live in his house. I couldn't believe he did this, but he had the guy come live in his house. Make a long story short, after going through this a couple of months, the guy not doing anything, not working around the house, not saying he was going to do things he was going to do, he finally found a gun under the guy's pillow in his room, and he threw the guy out. I was like, and you had 2 teenage girls in the house, and you let this guy in your house? Are you nuts? But he did it. But he learned a lot from that story, right? So There's a guy who at least lived what he was saying. But if you,
Yeah.
here's the thing, is in the immigrant situation, the best way to think of it is think of it like your house. If you had a relative who wasn't doing well, you invited them in your house, and you got kids, and you're gonna try to help this person out. But this person refuses to work, you know, sits around watching TV all day, watches porn in your front room. You got kids in the house, and this guy's like drinking and laying up and doing drugs all day. What he does is not only is he hurting himself, but now he's destroying your house too. And that's what we're doing with this illegal immigration situation. We're much better off helping them in their own countries, number one. And this is the other thing. We are a release valve for countries like Mexico. They're sending their problems here, and then their government doesn't have to never faces the pressure of having to fix their own problem. So we're basically a
Yeah.
release valve for them. Plus, then they repatriate all the money back to Mexico, which they of course tax
Right.
on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to hear a little update on that, how much money, because remember that Trump put the kibosh on his, wire transfer.
Mhm. Yeah, I've not heard an update on just how much is. I know it's had an impact. I'm not sure what the actual numbers are, but I'm sure it's had an impact. And I know I spoke about this in our last couple of sessions, but I'm telling you now, the the number of illegals in this area has dropped dramatically. And I mean, it's just incredible. You drive around, you can feel it, you can tell. Talk to another friend of mine, my brother-in-law in another part of town. He's like, "Oh, it's amazing." Here's the other thing he pointed out. He said a lot of the legal immigrants are like basically ratting these people out to ICE. Now you don't hear that in the media either. But a lot of the Hispanics that are here legally, because look, it hurts them more than anybody else because it's their neighborhoods who are getting destroyed by these people. So
Yeah.
he's saying, look, he knows a lot of them. They're picking up the phone and ratting them out. And you got to figure that's happening around the country also.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of people who understand what's going on. There's people that are, of course, accusing, um, these policies of being, you're deporting legal citizens, or, people are afraid to leave their house. People are afraid to take their children to school. People are afraid to go to work because they think they're going to be deported. And it's like, why would you think you're going to be deported if you're legal? Like, how can you be like smart enough to have a job and send your kid to school, but you're stupid enough to not actually dig into it? I mean, like that would be the first thing that I read, like every single line of, like, I need to figure this out, but
Well, if you sit
anyway.
around and listen, if you listen to psychotic media 24/7, you could be duped into thinking that. I mean, it's incredible, but because that's what they
Yeah,
tell
for
them
sure.
24/7. And and
Sure.
you and I both know there's no way. I heard somebody tell me the other day, it was a family member, so I couldn't really go there. But yeah, they're going to churches and schools and arresting people. Now you and I both know that is 100% falsehood. But if that's what the media is telling you, and I'll use the word naive because it's a nicer word. You're naive enough to like believe that, and that's what they're selling. Um,
Right. Right. Of course they are. Of course. But then you go on to like the libs of TikTok, on Instagram. I mean, it's an easy search.
mhm.
It's all of that stuff is debunked. So, I mean, anyway, I don't know if you also, speaking of making life a little bit better,
Mhm.
but also obfuscating issues. There's an article, Todd Blanche,
Mhm.
assistant or deputy AG, um, has identified that, or I mean, I think we also knew, but he sort of actually said it out loud that, you've these protesters that are.
Okay, you were saying the protesters? I'm sorry. Yeah, who knows? I know. I don't know what's going on tonight, but we'll keep rolling with it.
Okay. But it's more than, it's a very strange coincidence that at the same time that we have that federal investigation for all of this fraud that's going on, next thing you know, everybody's upset about ICE in Minnesota, so, coming to a city near you, California next, I mean, we're as corrupt as can be. So yeah, I mean, it's, as soon as the federal government starts digging into something that's real and politicians are looking, like they might be guilty of something, next thing you know, you've got paid protesters, distracting people from the issues.
Well, the
So
whole
anyway.
game is to keep you looking over here so you don't see what's going
Right.
on over here. And the last thing
That's
they
right.
want you to do is think about that fraud with the Somalians, man. They don't want you focusing on that because, man, that thing blows up. Not there's so many things going on at the same time. Then there's the Clintons being grilled by Congress. And that's like on this whole Epstein thing. It's like epic, the crimes these people have done. So they've got to keep the focus on something else because if enough people look at that, holy moly, there's just no getting around it.
Well, I'm really I don't want to say I'm torn about Epstein, but I'm a little confused because I am in the dark. So during I guess it was the 2020 campaign when Hunter Biden files and some of the Epstein stuff started to first come out, where they were showing pictures of Obama on Epstein Island, young boys, and there's all sorts of pictures that were actually released back then. And that's when kind of Pizzagate and the Wayfair scandal, all that started to come out. And I was digging into it and, was comparing notes back and forth. Okay. Well, then that was all kind of put on us, right? And here we are now, a huge, dump after dump after dump. And I've got, there's all the crazy, I'm seeing Instagram posts of like big, beefy biker dudes in gears, talking about how they just saw a video of one thing or another. And then you have Bondi and some other people. I was listening to Megyn Kelly. There's a bunch of people that are saying there are no actual ties between Epstein and organized pedophilia rings or human trafficking rings. So I'm guessing, and again, because I'm trying to keep my mind clear, I get very affected by things like that, and I will have nightmares for years if I see something that is disturbing to me. So I just learned to not look at it and just sort of put my trust in people that do look at it and pray that they. But you've got outrage going on from a lot of people. On both sides, that Trump's not doing anything. But then you also have voices saying, well, there's no there with Epstein. So I guess the there is with everybody else. I guess there, but maybe you can walk me through it as much as until I tell you to stop. But there's disgusting videos, there's pictures, there's stuff there, but they're just not tying it to Epstein. What's the disgusting stuff that they're seeing that at the same time people are denying that Epstein was involved in a pedophile ring?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've not followed that super closely because there's too many other issues. Here's what I think, though, just kind of high level. You got billionaires involved in this stuff, right? Lots of money, lots of power, on the one hand, and those people are experts. They're going to hire like a plethora of lawyers, and they've got so many layers of lawyers that I don't know if we ever get to the bottom of that. Then on the other side, you have the fact that you got women who've been abused on the other side. How many of them are going to want their personal lives put on display like that? So I don't know how much of this we ever get at the end of the day, but it's a problem for the left because so many of them are involved with it. So that's, I think, where that sits.
Well, they're dropping like flies. You've got high-ranking people in, like everywhere who are losing their board seats, getting, dissolving their investment firms. What is it, the Wasserman, who was like chairing the Olympic Committee? He's stepped down, and people are losing.
That tells you it's real, and my guess is just think about Nuremberg. Let's go back to that for a second. All of those people, look at what the Japanese did in World War II. all the people they assassinated, the rape of Nanking. You look at what the Nazis did, and all of that. I think there was only like 11 or 12 people executed in Nuremberg, right? Out of all, think of all of those murders, and only 12 people got executed at Nuremberg. And one second, we'll get Leslie back here. Okay, yeah, it's only 12 people got executed, 12 Germans, and only like 11 or 12 got executed on the Japanese side either. So what does that tell you? That tells me, I think a lot of those people were sat down in the room and said, okay, you got to like give up this information in exchange for you're not facing the noose, right? Or instead of getting hung, then you're going to like do this time in jail. Or instead of going to jail, you're going to come work for us and pay us back by doing this. We own you now. And I think those kinds of are the kinds of deals that are going to get had, or going to get
people
had.
don't want those. People don't want those deals done. I mean, people are threatening to go after these people.
Oh,
I mean,
I get
it. When Pam Bondi says we can't possibly prosecute everybody in the files because it would shut down the government, you know how people are responding?
Shut it down.
And
yeah.
Nobody wants nobody wants, oh, come over here, Dr. Mengele, and just, we won't prosecute if you share your notes, from all, these medical journals that are, anyway, people are not down for that.
No, I hear you. They weren't down for it in the 1940s either. I'm just saying that's how this is likely to go down. There's too many of them to get them all. But trust me, I like to have them lined up on the wall and shot too. But I'm also realistic enough to know that it's unlikely to happen. But if there's some things we're not going to know in our lifetime either. That's the other side of this. There's going to be things that happen. And it looks to me like this is the way this game is getting played. It's a giant game of chess, multi-level chess. And these people who are losing their gigs, they're giving up other stuff too that we don't know yet. And I think we have to yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they've unfortunately got names. They have names of these people and they have pictures and videos. We didn't have that before. It's like we had a bunch of unmarked graves, right? We had ovens full of ashes. People, like, there were no witnesses. Now we can all witness, right? And so just. It's a little terrifying to think that there could be a whole lot of vigilante justice rolling out across the country. And I mean, I'm down for it. Like, good. I'm not going to do it, but if you want to, go ahead, but I'll tell you what, if somebody had done something to somebody I love, if somebody had victimized my kid, and now I have a roster of those people.
Well, a lot of these people are going to be very difficult to get to, which is why I go back to my whole thing about the power of these people. These aren't regular Joe walking around in the streets.
No, but what about the CEO of that healthcare company? The guy just walked up to him and shot him. Well, I mean, just riding the subway. They're just going to Home Depot. I mean, there's.
Well, here you go. Just 1 second here. Yeah, that's one. But don't think that everybody else isn't taking a look at that. They're not going to be walking out. They're not going to walk around like that anymore. So yeah, it will be, it'll be a crazy business, no question about it. And we'll have to see how it plays out. What can you say?
Yeah.
But, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, well, speaking of corruption, I don't know if you are dialed into some of the latest of the fires, the LA fire.
Oh, no, so more information. I know they haven't done anything about rebuilding, but
they haven't done anything rebuilding. But apparently, they're really going after Gavin Newsom. It just continues to be, and Karen Bass continue to be exposed for their corruption. And one of the ways is, I guess, there's two developers who were recently indicted for purchasing property. Did we talk about this last week?
I don't think so.
I feel like, okay, there were two developers. I had it in my notes that arrested purchasing property and then flipping it. One of them was CEO of like Shangri-La Properties, which was an investment firm that would then buy properties and then supposedly fix them up and then sell them as homeless facilities or low-income housing. And turns out that he had submitted fraudulent bank records in order to apply for the loan. And he had done this over and over and over again to apply for some of the properties. Another guy, again, a developer who would buy properties and then flip them. Both of these guys were working in LA and had taken advantage of funds that were dedicated to, supporting homeless, helping the homeless. And so these guys are now going to court, and they have tight relationships with the mayor of LA and a council member on the city council of LA. That this is the program. This is the machinery.
Boy, I tell you, California's got to change. I mean, it's just once they get past this nightmare of Minnesota, I have to believe a lot of stuff's going to come out of there. And think about this. These are people who. This is the Palisades. This is a wealthy area, and they were all blue, and now they're paying the price for it. And the people they voted for won't even let them rebuild their houses. I just can't believe they're all going to sit around and take this.
Well, I don't think they are. There's a guy named Spencer Pratt. I know I've mentioned him before, and he is on it. I mean, he's like rabid, and he was actually talking a couple of days ago about how Karen Bass has hired the same law firm to represent LA as who represented the Maui, the Maui first. So we've got LA has a bench of like 500 lawyers that work for the city, yet none of these guys. And I'm sure these, they're not exactly, junior associates, right? I mean, they're heavy people because you work for the city, so you've got a fat pension and a nice salary. And none of those guys apparently could do the job. She had to hire an outside firm, damage control, crisis firm in order to come in and defend herself against the citizens. So anyway, Spencer is now running for mayor of LA. And so he is flinging mud all over the place. He's turning up, turning over so many rocks. It's awesome.
I can't wait to see what the polling looks like down there when it comes election time. I'm just very interested to see what that's going to look like. I just can't imagine that. Well, we'll see that state stays blue. It'd be a miracle. Like, I know a lot of people are leaving it, but the people that are left, you see who's screwing you. There is no question about it now. And even the ones who were their biggest supporters. I mean, the Palisades, unbelievable. I did have to mention, and I think I just have to run through this real quick, Leslie. This is a Portland specific thing, because I went and looked at some Portland stuff. And Portland, of course, is a lot smaller than LA, San Diego, but the stuff that happens here, let me just kind of run this by you. So it's called the Portland Doom Loops. This is an economic report I found about Portland, the state of the economy in Portland. So how's Portland doing? They didn't want to give it a grade because they didn't want to offend anybody, right? But they said Portland's economy is basically a grade of D on a scale of A to F. It really is an F, honestly. So they compared it to 50 other big metropolitan cities in the United States, and it came in dead last. It was first in office vacancies and taxes. That is the worst in both of those. It is at the bottom of every single region in the country. They'd lost 8,000 jobs last year at a time when the national economy is expanding, is slowing down in Portland. The population is declining and the jobs are going with them. Now, here's an interesting part. So Clark County, that's where Vancouver is in Washington, just across the river. It's a suburb of Portland. The economy expanded 16%. In Multnomah County, which is the core county for Portland, is down 8%. That's a 24% swing. And the obvious reason is because of the policy choices that they're making in Portland. They have the nation's highest business taxes and the second highest personal income taxes. So you can't attract people. with those stats. Housing production is really low and affordability is out of reach because of the land use laws are so impossible in Portland. You can't build anything. 80 out of 81 is it ranked 80 out of 81 nationally in terms of how investors look at investing in cities. And none of that addressed, by the way, poor policing and crime and homelessness that all goes on is rampant in Portland. It's hemorrhaging residents, and they're all moving to go to either across the river or across the river is out of state, but they're going to Clark County or they're going to other parts of the country, the Southwest, basically, or the Southeast to get away from it. But I just thought that was a fascinating thing. Um,
These people come in and they're taking over like the most beautiful places in the United States, California, Oregon, Washington. I mean, these states are gorgeous. And we just sort of like stand back and let them screw it up. I mean,
well,
I don't know.
well, liberals have good taste. That's the one thing I'll give to them. They always go wreck the most beautiful places, like San Francisco. I used to go to San Francisco in the 80s. It was like a dream place. I mean, just
Of
walking the
course.
streets of San Francisco was amazing. Downtown
Yeah.
Portland, I grew up here. You could ride a bike to downtown Portland, go to the library in downtown, lay on the grass on the campus of Portland State in the summer and read a book. It was just an amazing thing. I mean, now you got to watch where you step. So you got to wear boots so you don't step on a needle and get a disease. They got
Yeah.
guys walking around with machetes downtown. Like it's on with two naked guys wrestling in the middle of Broadway Street. You cannot make this stuff up. You really can't. And it's amazing any business, and obviously businesses are fleeing the place like crazy. So the tax base is going down, businesses are leaving, and the one thing you cannot get people on camera to say is the problem is crime. And the businesses don't want to say it because they don't want to get ostracized by the public leadership, right? So they'll dodge around the answer to the question and just, well, we're not
Mm.
making money, so we had to leave. Well, why aren't you making money? Well, because we got criminals laying around in front of the store. Customers are afraid to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. For sure. Well, one thing that is a bit of a spark of light in the darkness is and as I've been getting ready to decide what he wants to do with his life, and so I'm kind of keyed into like where the jobs are and where industry is moving, and there so I saw an article in the Times. They were talking about how the FAA is now mandating merit-based hiring, even
Mhm,
though a lot of these DEI hiring is is not allowed anymore
mhm.
officially. It's still hanging around, and so the more that the FAA has now mandated that it is only based hiring, which seems like a duh moment, but obviously they need to actually say that. But the aviation industry is in a is huge demand. So if you don't just have to be a pilot, but if you're like an aviation maintenance technician, cabin crew, right? So flight attendants, you're you are going to be high in demand. So if you know a young person who is handy and wants to maybe go into trades, but isn't quite sure where to go, and maybe if they like mechanics, don't be an auto mechanic, an aviation mechanic. I mean, you'll probably make 3 times the wage, right? Because there's just nobody going into that industry. They're going to be losing, I think it said 1.5 million civil aviation.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing, which is really cool about that advice is that the trades in general are clearly the place to go. It is clearly where the money is to be had. And now that we are becoming a manufacturing country again, and now that Trump has put these tariffs in place, so we stop having our jobs stolen by Europeans and Chinese, all of that is exploding. I mean, the latest jobs growth data was like sensational. I think I saw it 4.5, almost five. They're anticipating maybe 5.5% GDP at the first quarter of this year. That's like stunning. I mean, 3% is great. So I think, yeah, the trades are absolutely the place to go. And it'd be great to see colleges take it on the chin because they're going to, as more and more people start figuring out
Yeah.
the degree. I was just talking to my brother-in-law about this yesterday. College degrees, with the exception of certain fields, it's utterly worthless.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say, and maybe it's because I'm in California, but the job market is still very, very tight and very, very competitive. I mean, I'll be looking around on LinkedIn and there'll be a job posting for something. I was just looking at something today because I'm always keeping my ears open. There were like
Mhm,
637 people have applied for this job.
mhm.
That people, I'm hearing the jobs report is strong. I'm hearing the economy is strong. Unfortunately, that's not translating to my life. Groceries
Well,
are still very expensive. Rents have not dropped, and it is very difficult to find a job, at least in San
well, this
Diego.
is I was gonna say there's a regionalism to this though, because the other thing is it's not universally the same everywhere. The red states are blowing up and the blue states aren't. And that, like we just said in Portland, even a different county is different because
Yeah,
this county actually enforces the law, and we don't let like fentanyl addicts like walk naked down the middle of downtown, and they actually don't have homeless encampments in the middle of everywhere. And so, of course, the economy is going to be a lot better, and you're only talking a few miles apart. Now, imagine
yeah,
if you have a state that behaves like a Florida or a Texas, is going to do a lot better than a state that behaves like a Virginia or California. Um, and when California's political class changes, all of that changes for the positive.
yeah. Well, I hope it happens soon. I hope it happens at the midterms.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be exciting for us.
But
But in the meantime, go into aviation.
yeah, no, I like that advice. And it's funny you said that. That was one of the fields that I asked my kids to look at. None of them took me up on it. No, they never take your direct advice, right? But they did do things though that didn't require college. I think they got AA degrees, but they didn't do it. They didn't go on to get a degree because if it would have made sense, now certain fields where it makes sense, right? When you get out and you actually know how to do something that the college degree teaches you, like medicine, accounting, that kind of stuff, right? But anything that ends in ology, for example, or iatry, or studies, those things are a waste of time and money. And and it's better to go get a certification, for example, like software engineers, like writing programs. And I used to like hire people for this. Let's say you can write, I don't know, you name your program, but you can write that code. And I would hire these guys, and basically the interview was take this test. Literally, this was the interview. You pass the test. Now we do a background check to make sure you're not a serial murderer or something, right? And then I talk to you for like a few minutes to see if you can talk, right? Even though we don't need you to talk because we're doing code. And these guys are getting paid 100 grand. Like, don't care whether you're a college degree or not. Better off if you don't have a college degree because you can do code. And I think as companies start figuring that out, like, do you really need a college degree to be a store manager at like Walmart? No.
Right, right.
You just need the background and experience to show that you can do the work. I remember I was interviewing, and this is when I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and there was a guy I knew who was like 30 years old, wife and like 3 or 4 kids, and had his own like carpet cleaning business since he was in high school. Don't you know I couldn't interview that guy because the company's stupid rules said that you had to have a college degree to get this job. That is like insane. Here's a guy who's got life experience. I'm going to hire some 22-year-old, wet behind the ears, don't know jack, when I can have a guy who's 30 something years old with a family and is like 8 years running the business already. Are you kidding me? Those are the kinds of stupid decisions I think more and more companies are going to stop making. Um, and another reason why the trades are great because you can go over there, like my son did this and took some state board exams on, I can't remember which field it was now. Like, I don't know, it was a home inspecting at that time. He started doing that. Take a couple of certificates, get the licenses, go out there and make money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And now,
I,
yeah.
it's funny. I was participating in a conference a couple weeks ago, and they were all educators, or talking back and forth, and the focus was on um, the the needs that the male brain has in a classroom environment for learning,
Mhm.
and how distinctly different it is than girls. And so, just you need to be, boys need to be put to work. They need to get hands on. It needs to be experiential, versus girls can sit down and read a book and then talk about it and then write about it. And, right. Boys are not going to thrive in that environment. Right. And, so then of course the conversation immediately went to, hands on, experiential, let's, they need to do more trades. They need to be, more, practical skills. If they want to be a chef, which it's a very high paid profession, get them in the kitchen really, really early, like get them in a grade school, get them in, middle school if they want it. Just anyway, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And, I had to like start, people started a little bit of kind of slamming the trades, and I
Mhm.
was like, I don't think people realize how much money somebody can make in the trades. And you're
Yeah.
making that money
Mhm.
early. You're not waiting until you're, maybe mid 30s before you're
Mhm.
scratching six figures, if you are. And you've got it, school
Mhm.
loan debts, that you're paying off. I mean, these guys are making six figures in their 20s,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's no debt.
Yeah, here's the thing. This is like cultural branding that goes on. Everybody follows like along like sheep. So for the last 20 or 30 years, maybe 40 years, is get a degree, get a degree, get a degree, get a degree. Right? And so everybody thinks that's the prestigious thing to do. And it's like not cool to work with your hands. And that is insane. And what's happening, and at one time the college degree was cheap, like when I went. And so it wasn't as fatal a decision. But now
Yeah.
people are getting a piece of paper that's utterly worthless. And of course, the quality of the education has gone down on top of that. So you're not even getting
Right.
the quality of education that I got back then. And now you got is flooded with degrees, which means they're not worth anything because there's too many of them. Um, and what jobs do you get? I mean, I know one of the shocking things when I first got out of college, when I realized I don't know anything. And the company is going to teach you what you need to know, right? So what good is to pay 100 grand for that is insane. Then you think about the opportunity cost. So if you started working, let's say you're 20, let's say you're 20, you got no debt, and you start working in, name your field with your hands. That's 4 years that A, you're earning money, and B is you're not getting in debt. That your college, your contemporary is getting in debt, and they're not making anything. They have the opportunity cost that they're losing from not making anything, and they're going to get a degree that's like useless. Put a short version another way, the first kid who didn't do the stupid degree thing probably has his first house by the time he's 25, and the other kid who went to college is not going to be able to afford a house until he's probably 35 or 40, and that's how that rolls.
Yeah.
But nobody's telling people that stuff. It's all about this experience, and because your parents did it this way. And the thing is,
Right.
the environment has changed.
Yeah.
It's like
I don't know where you can afford a house at
yeah,
25,
they're trying to
but
run they're trying to run the wishbone offense from the 70s when we're in like a different era.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are. We're definitely in a different era. I don't know. We'll see how it rolls out. Again, I mean, Trump's 1 year in.
1 year. Is this unbelievable that this much stuff? And here's the thing that I love about this. All of these problems we have, and I was talking to somebody about this just the other day, they're all solvable. We know how to fix them. This is not complicated. It's just you have to have the will to do it. We know how to stop inflation, stop spending money and borrowing money, right? We know how to get rid of homeless, enforce the law, put these mugs in like in drug rehab, clean them up. And the ones who don't want to get cleaned up stay in prison for life. And the ones that do, get them a job, help them out, and get them back on their feet, right? We know what to do. The educational system, introduce competition to it so it gets better, and either the public school system gets better or it goes away. The solutions is immigration. We know how to fix that. Shut down the border and send people back. Is you have to have the will to do it. Now, did I say anything that was going to be? No. It's not complicated though. It's not complicated at all. I mean, look how quickly Trump fixed the border thing. Is that easy? Do you want to do it or not? They told us
Right.
forever it was unfixable, unsolvable. We need more laws. No, what you need to do is just enforce the laws that you have. Same with
Right.
like places like LA, Portland,
Yeah.
all of these cities, you know, decide vagrancy has been against the law forever. If you're hanging out in front of buildings, you're gone.
Right.
Urinating in public, that's against the law. You go to jail. This is like
Yeah.
not hard. It's not hard, but you
Right.
have to want to do it. And the politicians in power in those places, this is the thing you have to remember. They don't want to. A
Right.
lot of the conservatives speak about this as if they want to solve the problem and they're too dumb to do it. I think now there are some exceptions to this. Some of them really are that stupid. But most of these people, they know what the answer is. They don't want to because they want chaos. They need chaos to stay in office. They need illegals to flood the country so that they can be a one-party state and have people dependent on them so they can get votes. They're not interested in fixing the problem.
Well, what I think is important to remember is that people will say, "Oh, the problem is too big to fix. It's just too bold, of a statement to, commit to whatever, getting rid of illegal, practices, stamping out corruption in the roles, solving homelessness, whatever it is." The truth is, it is bold. The other side is boldly marching forward with their disgusting and corrupt plans. So there is boldness. There is, ruthlessness going on. It's just in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
And so now we've got this guy, Trump, who is bold and audacious and ruthless as well. And he's got a group of people behind him who's willing to board with that bold plan. But I mean, we have an amazing, strong people building our country. They're captains of industry and they're inventors and they're scientists and they're this and they're that, right? We've got the smarts to do it. We just haven't had the right people pushing towards the light. We've had all these people pushing towards the dark.
Yeah. And I think too, on our side, people have always assumed the best. We keep thinking these are JFK Democrats when they're not. The JFK Democrat is like dead and stinking, I tell you, right? We are facing pure communists. That party has been overrun. And it took me a while to finally come to this conclusion. But hey, you think about this for a minute. While we're running around trying to be kind and worried about hurting people's feelings, they got in the Super Bowl at halftime in front of how many hundreds of millions of people, known as millions of kids looking, and they got on stage and like are basically simulating sex in front of all these people. And we're supposed to sit there and like just take it. I think the days of just taking it are over. And if we can't see that, then I don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think about those poor Jews that were in Germany when they had a Kristallnacht, when they went through and like tore up all the streets and tore up all the buildings and let's kill the Jews. There were a certain percentage of Jews looked at it and said, you know what? I'm out of here. And they left. They said, we see it coming. And a whole bunch of them said, well, maybe it'll change. Just mean it. That one night, they didn't really mean it. And those people wind up getting like gassed to death. That happened. And if we don't stop with this be nice stuff, we're going to wind up like those Jews. So
yeah. Well,
anyway.
there were lots of people that died.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
Well, my friend, we have reached the top of the hour again, believe it or not. How does this happen so fast?
Because we just are blowhards and we can't stop talking.
Well, Lori, you don't think I'm a blowhard, are you? Do you? Yeah. And I see what you said here, Lori, too, about Trump. I think the good things are coming. I do. I'm an optimist. So any closing comments here from you, Leslie, before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, honestly, there was one issue that I didn't want to bring up because it's too terrifying to me, but hopefully next week we'll have some more positive on our own. And hopefully those peace talks are going to be, heading in the right direction. I think we all need to pray really, really, really hard about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's heavy on my mind.
Okay. And I just want to let audience too. So Sonny's going to come join us next week too. So
Oh,
Are you
good.
gonna be here, Leslie? Are you gonna be out? Are you gonna be in? Are you
No,
here?
I have an event that I'm going to, but one of these days I want to be here with Sonny's. So let's figure that out.
No, yeah, we'll make that happen. But Sonny's gonna be here next week, everybody. And thank you all for joining us once again. Another lovely night on Captive Audience and America number one.
That's
That is amazing.
right.